Hello and welcome to Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. After a week off, we're back, and we've got some NBA news and notes to go through. Jarrett Allen has signed an extension. Tyus Jones is going to Phoenix, and we've also got some Olympics to dive into a little bit at the top. But the big thing we'll do at the end of this show is a YouTube-only breakdown of Nolan Traore, a potential top 5 pick who's been playing this summer with France's U18 team. But first, let's go on ahead and hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy? It's good to be back.
What's up, Sam? I know, man. I'm a little bit out of routine here. I'm feeling a little awkward, a little out of it. Got to get back into the groove. Spent the day at the pool today, a friend's pool. So, 4 or 5 of us families and our kids all got together. So that was fun. And then been looking forward to this all day. But yeah, I mean, it's been almost 10 days since I think we last recorded. Maybe not quite, something like that.
It has been, because we decided to take just like a little week off, because honestly, I needed a week off after the draft cycle and after everything. And yet I say that, and oh, by the way, like in that week off, I started the 2025 NBA draft guide, because that's who I am, unfortunately, as a person. I can't take the full week, it feels like, but nonetheless, I am excited to get into this because a lot of NBA news and notes have happened over the course of this little week, 10 days that we took off. We will be back again. We're going to go for about 2 times a week, I would say, over the course of the next month. Realistically, if like more news than that breaks, we will certainly do that. I have like a little content plan that I've built out, but if we do 2 podcasts in a week and then Brandon Ingram gets traded or something on a Friday, we'll certainly go live and talk about Brandon Ingram. But, the schedule that you should expect for the next month or so is probably 2 times a week at this point. Then we'll be back into, training camp and things like that will get going and we'll be ready to go. But the first thing I guess we should talk about is the Olympics. I feel like that is probably the thing people care most about right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, as you put on the outline, we have plenty of signings to talk about since the last time we talked, or extensions, or whatever that I think are going to be fun. I'm just like you. A couple days ago, I'm like, man, I don't have a lot to do. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna up my notes on the 2025 draft. I'm gonna go watch some more VJ Achiuwa and some Ace Bailey, some Nolan Traore, all the FIBA stuff. We were talking before about some other guys that we probably want to do some breakdowns on very soon. But yeah, I will say this: it's been an awesome summer because we go from the finals right into the offseason, the draft, summer league, and then we went from summer league to the Olympics. And I'm not even just a basketball Olympics guy. Like, we have it recorded right now. Sam, as soon as we get done recording, my wife and I will turn on the recordings from today. We'll watch the track and the field and the swimming and the gymnastics and beach volleyball, sand volleyball, whatever. And we love all of it. But of course, we talk basketball here. So we got some men's basketball, women's basketball. Also, I've caught a little bit of that, but obviously, a little more in tune with the men's basketball here at the Olympics.
Yeah, so I feel a little bit bad because the women's basketball stuff has mostly been overnight for me, so I haven't watched a lot of that. I've gone back and watched the men's team just out of curiosity because all their games have also been overnight for me. But the Australia team is the one that I've watched the most because those have weirdly been primetime games here in Australia. Like, they've had them playing in the morning in France or like early afternoon. So I feel a little bit better about how I feel about the Australian team. Not better, but I feel like I've watched more of the Australian team than I have the US team so far. I mean, in terms of the other sports, like I enjoyed the rugby sevens. That was probably the thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, seeing Alona Mar just like dominate, like that was awesome.
Did I text you? We kind of stumbled on it and I was like, this is exciting as heck. This is amazing. And the first one we turned on, it was like 12-5. I don't even know if that can actually be a rugby score. It sounds right, maybe. And then it was like 3 minutes left to go in the game. And then there were 5 straight tries. Tries are
Sure.
touchdowns. Tries equals touchdowns. And so me and my friend are watching. It's actually the head football coach here who I coach with, and we're like trying to figure out the rules as we go. Okay, so you have to lateral. Why are they kicking the extra point? Not an extra point. What's it called? With
Couldn't tell you.
Okay,
Bryce. Absolutely no idea.
Okay, cool. So the extra point, whatever it is, we're trying to figure out why they're kicking it from different spots. And is it always this exciting at the end? And then realize that 7s isn't the normal amount of people on in a rugby game.
Yeah.
And long story short, or short story long, awesome. Loved watching it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I also loved watching it. It was a great time. I guess though we are a basketball podcast and we should talk about basketball. Team USA is the team that I think has caused the most headlines, certainly at this point, because people decided to melt down about Jason Tatum not playing in the first game, and then Joel Embiid has struggled, and Kevin Durant, I believe, broke the Olympics record for scoring, which is a positive thing that we should talk about, because to me, Kevin Durant is probably the best Team USA player of all time and doesn't really get that recognition, unfortunately. We're not going to spend like a crazy amount talking about the Olympics just because medal rounds will be starting this week. We'll see what actually ends up happening with the medals and everything. But out of Team USA, what has been your main takeaway to this point?
Yeah, the Jason Tatum stuff was a little bit crazy to me. People just went insane about it. I'm like, this is what the Olympics, there's 12 qualified basketball players on that team, and you have to decide who's going to play and who's not. So I thought it was a little bit, I don't want to say overreaction. You know, everybody has their way of reacting to things. I was a little taken aback that people freaked out so much. And then all of a sudden, oh, now we're going to putting him to the starting lineup. Now I know against Puerto Rico, Drew Holiday had rolled his ankle and maybe that's why he stayed in the starting lineup, but it just, this can't be easy. I guess I was just surprised. Like, what did we expect? We knew that they couldn't play 12 dudes. And, you know, luckily for whatever reason, nobody cares that Tyrese Halliburton isn't in the rotation. Everybody just is okay with that. So, you know, there's still going to be one guy out if everybody's healthy. So I kind of like to just enjoy how talented it is and not think too deep into the rotations and all of that. I'm interested to see if they get tested by, you know, Canada. They're on the other side of the bracket. I think that's the biggest one. It looks like they'll see either Serbia or Australia. I don't know how you feel about that, about Australia getting by Serbia potentially here in the round of 16. But I'm interested to see, because I think they're going to win it, but I think there's a game where they really get tested. Like they need LeBron heroics or Steph heroics or Kevin Durant heroics down the stretch to go ahead and win this thing. Maybe they run away with it, but that's my vibe.
Yeah. I don't know how convinced I am that they get tested. Like the only way that the only teams I see that have a chance to test them are Canada, Germany, and maybe Serbia. Like Serbia, they've already beaten them by what, like 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
But that first half, like, was at least competitive, right? And if Serbia could string that together for a full game, I can see a world where if they're shot making, it could be like an interesting, intriguing situation.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jokic was an even in his minutes and then negative whatever in the minutes he was on the bench. Now, I'm not saying Jokic is going to be able to play 40, but if you're talking about the semifinals of the Olympics, they do have quite a few days off between these. I think if I'm looking at the schedule here, there actually is only one day in between quarterfinals and semifinals, but maybe you can stretch his minutes a little bit more. And maybe after doing it twice, Serbia can figure out a way to not just get crushed in the non-Jokic minutes. I expect them to win, to be very clear. I'm just saying I won't be shocked if they get tested through the fourth quarter in one of these games.
I think that the way that would happen would probably be Canada, with like Shea just going off and Jamal Murray, who by the way has like struggled quite a bit in this tournament. He's gotten a little bit better over the course of the tournament, but that's another thing. You know, maybe next week we'll talk about like our takeaways from the Olympics at some point. And Jamal, that's an interesting situation that we should talk about in terms of like where he goes moving forward. But you know, he's nowhere near done, but I think it's worth at least discussing what Jamal will be moving forward. Australia is the team like I'm most interested in. I live here, obviously, so like, whatever, you would expect that. So it's easier for me to watch them. But man, they are like a mess. Like it's pretty wild. Have you watched any of their games?
I actually haven't seen any of their. I've mostly watched Team USA.
They're overnight
games.
for you for the most part.
Yeah, and I mean, I like I said, I watch some of the other events. I've watched. I tune in a little bit here and there, but mostly it's just the Team USA games.
Yeah, so Australia just like doesn't know what its best lineups are even right now is the crazy thing. Like that's what's the most frustrating piece of it for me is like I don't know how well coached they are is the big thing for me. And I feel bad saying that. Like all those folks over there, like I think they work hard and do like a pretty good job, by and large throughout the year of keeping these guys together when they're all spread out throughout the world. But I mean, you watch the Greece game, for instance, and like you watch the creativity of what Greece is running in terms of sets versus what Australia is running. It's just like, holy shit, this is like a different sport right now. Right. It's just like a totally different ball game. Greece just like, attacked Patty Mills relentlessly in the first half. And, Australia didn't really feel like it had a matchup to attack, but they should have because Dyson Daniels was having success. And I don't know. It was a very strange situation. They don't have like an offensive primary force right now because Mills is a little bit old and Giddey has been up and down throughout the tournament. He's had like a great first half in the first two games, not a great second half in the first two games. Then it was reversed in game three. Dyson Daniels has been fantastic. Like I've loved watching Dyson Daniels' game so far in the Olympics, but he's still not there as like a primary offensive driver or anything like that. And I don't think he'll ever probably be that. So yeah, they just have to manufacture offense and they don't have the offensive creativity to go manufacture stuff. It feels like to me. So part of that shooting, like they're not a great shooting team, which is something that like the Australian basketball ecosystem drastically has to improve. Like Jack McVeigh can't be the only guy that I trust to knock down shots outside of Mills. Right. They've been utilizing Mills, I think, a little bit too much. I think that very clearly their three best perimeter players are Dyson Daniels, Josh Giddey, and Dante Exum, and Mills is still starting for some reason. Yeah, no, it's a weird deal. And then the front court's odd because they're starting Nick Kay, and all due respect to Nick Kay, who is a really hard worker and is like typically the kind of guy that I overrate. You know this from having been on the show with me for a year and talk to me fucking every day for a year. Like the guys that I tend to overrate are the guys that like don't contribute that much to the box score, but like are valuable players. Nick just like kind of can't score, so you don't have to guard him as much as the problem. So like his guy comes off and helps way off into like the paint where they're trying to drive. They just desperately need to find like an offensive structure and scheme. And that's probably not, going to happen in the next 3 days or whatever. It's going to happen, over the course of once Gorgon leaves and they hire a new coach, because Gorgon's going to coach Sydney here for this upcoming season. So it would feel unlikely that he'll probably be the Australian coach moving forward. I'm not saying that as a report. I'm saying that as I think I've seen reports about that from people much more connected than me. So yeah, no, it's a weird deal with Australia. I'm very frustrated watching them. Jock Lawndale has been incredible though, by the way.
No, I think one thing I do enjoy about you just see some of these NBA players in different contexts. So, like Dennis Schroeder is with Germany is always just fascinating to me, right? Because he goes and he's the dude, he is the man on that team for his country. And he kind of balls out whenever I see him play.
If you're Orlando, I kind of just go get him as an expiring guy. It's probably not going to be that expensive, right?
Yeah, look how he plays with the Wagners. Yeah.
Right. And like, I know that they have Cole Anthony obviously as a backup guard, but you could use one more guard probably if you're Orlando, and that's not an expensive deal. It's, a 1-year contract. Like, I don't know, man. Like that sounds like a pretty interesting addition to me.
Yeah, no, I love it. I didn't even think in that context, but yeah. So him, obviously, we'd be hard put not to mention the South Sudan, who got a win for the first time in these Olympics and played really well. Scrappy. And then listen, Jose Alvarado is just a guy I really enjoy watching play basketball. And so getting to see him play that many minutes in that kind of role, we know that's not his role in the NBA, but just play with this ultimate confidence. And they gave Team USA men all they wanted for about a quarter and a half. And then you knew eventually, LeBron and all those guys would get it figured. Ant had a big game in that. I think that's what's fascinating to me is, okay, Team USA, let's say they face Canada or Germany, whoever, those teams know who the go-to guys are, Sam. And so this is what would be interesting to me. Yeah. I think Team USA knows that it's LeBron. I assume that they know that, and that's who it would be. But what if KD thinks it's him? Or what if Ant's on the floor and he thinks it's him, where Canada knows we're going to SGA every single time down the stretch or something? Like, I would be fascinated. I want them in that situation to see how it would play out. I'm not saying it would go bad or wrong. I just would be interested. I know we saw it in the exhibition games, but I'd like to see it with a medal on the line to see, okay, do they all just concede to LeBron? Do you have Drew Holiday and or Derek White on the floor in the final 2 minutes because you need those type of role players? Do you have AD or Bam instead of Embiid? I want them to get in that situation to see how it would play out.
I do too. Honestly, it's a great point and a really great call. Like, I do want to see what it looks like, but man, I don't know. Ant has been sick. Like, I mean, many of these dudes have been so sick that like Steph hasn't even had to make shots yet.
Yeah.
At some point, Steph's going to like stop shooting poorly. Right.
Yes.
So I don't know, man. It feels like the US is in a really, really good spot here in the Olympics. Man, I don't know. Any other takes here before we move past the Olympics?
Not on the Olympics. Like I said, I enjoy the other stuff as well. I just, in general, track and field is awesome. I love watching the track and field. The swimming is fun. And not even just from a USA perspective, just in general. The kid from France that just crushed swimming this year, Leon Marchand, I believe, has been awesome to watch. Just incredible. St. Lucia, I believe, got their first Olympic medal in the women's 100 yesterday. It's amazing watching these athletes do what they do.
100%. Shout out to the women here in Australia, which I think have like 10 of the 12 golds for Australia. And Australia is currently 4th in the gold medal count right now, 3rd maybe, and tied for 3rd in the gold medal count. So all of the women here in Australia have totally balled out. It's been really, really fun. But before we move forward and start talking about some NBA things, just some quick little spotlights here on our advertisers. Shout out to Hungry Root. As you all know, my schedule is jam-packed between prepping for the NBA draft, traveling to Las Vegas for Summer League about 2 weeks ago. That used to mean I had to meal plan, grocery shop, I had to cook. All these things are just like hassles whenever you're trying to not just gain weight like crazy, which, typically during those cycles, I end up gaining a decent amount of weight. Grocery shopping just takes up precious time. Food delivery was expensive, and I often ended up turning to fast food. That's not always that healthy, but that changed with Hungry Root. Hungry Root has truly eased my mental load and made me less overwhelmed. When I got my first delivery, I was amazed at how easy it was to whip up a healthy, delicious meal. The ingredients were fresh and high quality. The recipe was easy to complete. And best of all, my wife loved it. I've tried eating healthy in many ways, from meal prepping to using food delivery services, but nothing compares to Hungry Root. It saved me so much time. It saved me just a lot of energy meal prepping, and it helps me stick to my dietary needs. Plus, I'm wasting less food, which is always good for the environment as well. Hungry Root is the easiest way to eat healthy. They send you fresh, high-quality groceries, simple, delicious recipes, and essential supplements. It's like having someone else do all the planning and shopping so you don't have to think about it. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Game Theory listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Yes, you heard that right. Free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/game theory, GAMETHEORY, to get that 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/game theory. Don't forget to use our link so that they know we sent you. Also, shout out to our sponsor, Mando. I recently got back from my trip to Las Vegas, and let me tell you, packing is a disaster. I never know what to pack. I either bring too much or not enough. My suitcase always ends up over the weight limit. especially when I'm bringing back movies, I'm bringing back everything that I buy over in the US to bring here. It's a real struggle. One of my biggest dilemmas was deciding what hygiene products can I take? Like, I have to bring contact lens solution, which is weirdly a heavy thing that I have to worry about. Do I bring tiny bottles of shampoo? Do I pour shampoo into the travel size bottles? Do I just buy travel size bottles? How do I get those? Like, it's a total mess. The thing that made my life so much easier was Mando's 4-in-1 acidified cleansing bar. This 5-ounce bar is a game changer. It works as a shampoo, face wash, body wash, deodorant, and if you need a shaving lather, it's perfect for that too. It's technically a 5-in-1 product. It's clinically proven to control odor for 24 hours. Mando's 4-in-1 acidified cleansing bar is formulated with a gentle alpha hydroxy acid that stops odor at the source. Regular soap just can't compete because its pH is too high. Now, I'm not a scientist. I don't fully understand pH or alpha hydroxy acids, but trust me, it works. A doctor developed it. It works. This bar simplified my hygiene routine and was the only thing I really needed to pack. Mando's 4-in-1 acidified cleansing bar comes in 3 cologne quality scents: Mount Fuji, Bourbon Leather, or Pro Sport. My favorite was the Bourbon Leather. And guess what? I've got a special offer for you. New customers get $5 off Mando's best-selling starter pack with code GAMETHEORY, GAMETHEORY, at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. It's safe to use anywhere on your body, wherever you need to use it, you name it. Created by a doctor, it's powerful enough for the toughest body odor, but gentle enough for every crevice. Plus, it's aluminum-free, baking soda-free, cruelty-free, dye-free, and vegan. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, and free shipping. So don't miss out. Use that code GAMETHEORY, GAMETHEORY, at shopmando.com. to get that $5 off your starter pack. Simplify your travel and stay fresh with Mando. Okay, Bryce. Now it is time to talk about some NBA news and notes. So the first one to get to here is Jarrett Allen signed a 3-year, I believe it was a $91 million contract extension. Is that correct? That was the max that he was allowed to sign. What are your thoughts on this deal? Because on some level, it does lock the Cavs into this roster, right? Where Evan Mobley has gotten his extension. Jarrett Allen has gotten his extension. Donovan Mitchell has gotten his extension. Darius Garland has not gotten his extension because he's not eligible, but he is locked in for real money over the long term. Max Strus has 3 more years. What are your thoughts on the Jarrett Allen deal and what it means for the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Yeah. At first I was a little surprised. I was like, man, they're just like you said, they're locking in this core when, we've talked about, does this core actually work or not? The more I thought of it, and I'm just thinking about it from the Cavs perspective, I'm sure we'll talk about it from Jarrett Allen's perspective. And just to be clear for everybody, I know it's been out there, so he already had 2 years left. He had this year and another year, and then it's 3 beyond that. So just, he wasn't down to 1 year or anything like that. I kind of like it from the Cavs perspective. And I'm a guy that, has talked about, hey, maybe this isn't all going to work. Here's what I'm understanding with the Cavs is you bring in a new coach, see if he can figure it out. Let's see if he's able to figure this out. But if not, is that okay? Let me ask you this. Do you think it's easier or harder to trade Jarrett Allen now? Because I think it's easier to trade Jarrett Allen now that he has this contract, because this is an awesome number for Jarrett Allen. And now a team would have him locked in for 4.5 years if you traded for him at this deadline, or 4 years if it's next offseason. I think this is an awesome move by the Cavs. You get a chance to try it out with the new coach. And then if it doesn't work, I don't think this hurts his trade value at all.
So your total money that you're talking about on Jarrett Allen now moving forward is 5 years, $131 million. That is a low number for a guy that, if you look at any of the numbers over the last little while, has been a top 10 starting center in the NBA. This year, he was a +2 EPM player, was worth 8.2 wins. That was 10th best among centers in the NBA. 2022-23, he was 9th in estimated wins at 9.3. This year, the Cavs were 6th in defense this season. That was with Evan Mobley playing 50 games. That was with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell playing 55 and 57 respectively. George Niang is not exactly like some bastion of high-level defense. He's the only guy I think that played all 82 games, right? Sam Merrill, not some crazy defender. The two guys that were like consistently out on the court for the Cavs were Jarrett Allen and Isaac Okoro, right? I think Allen is like their most important defender, in all honesty, even ahead of Mobley when I watch them. I think Mobley is a better defender, like his ability to protect the rim, switch, everything like that. He is a more, he's not a more important defender. He's just like a more talented defender at the end of the day because he can just do a lot more things. But the fact that he doesn't have like a defined offensive role makes it a lot more complicated for Cleveland when they're trying to figure out what exactly they want to do offensively within their structure. Jarrett Allen has like an incredibly defined offensive role that we'll get to in a second, but also is just like this awesome rim protecting defensive player that is 6'11" with a 7'5" wingspan and protects the rim by blocking shots. And I think he is a very obvious extension guy here for this number. 5 years, 131 is a completely reasonable set of like a deal for him at the end of the day. And if you look at a percentage of the cap on these last 3 years, right?
Yep,
that's what you have to start using it as, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Jarrett Allen is going to be making 16% of the cap in 2026-27, 16% of the cap in 2027-28, and 15.8% of the cap in 2028-29, assuming that this extension has the normal structure that you would expect an extension like this to have. That's not dissimilar from what his current percentages of the cap are. Like he right now is at like 14% of the cap. Last year he was at like 15% of the cap. So this is just a reality on where the salary cap is going. I think this is a very obvious extension, and I think he's an awesome player too.
Didn't he make one of our best contracts in the NBA whenever we did our top 10? I'm like, so we're talking about one of the top 10, top 15 contracts in the NBA. Like you can quibble wherever you want. And like you just outlined, you have him now locked in for that same number, by the way, this year and next year. And then with the cap going up, barely any more than that for 3 years. And he's only 26. And here's the thing from the Cavs perspective. Again, my first thought was I didn't love it. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, this makes 100% sense. I love it. You can trade it if you need to. What if Mobley eventually figures out the offensive game? Now you have this guy locked in at a really good number, and that front court is locked in, as you talked about, through 27-28 with those two guys. No, 28-29 with those two guys. Like it is locked in if Kenny Atkinson / Evan Mobley, whatever, is able to figure it out and make it work at really good numbers for one of them. I think it was a great job by the Cavs.
Yeah, I think that it was just like an obvious choice because it doesn't hinder your flexibility at all.
No.
There is a world, I think, where like Jarrett Allen by the end of that deal is not an awesome value. Right. He'll be like in his 30s by the end of that
early
deal.
30s. Yep.
One thing you and I have talked about is not overpaying for, non-top 10, non-top 8 centers in the league. I think Allen currently ticks that box, right? And at the number he's at, like this is a great deal. He could be making 30 million this year. He won't be, but he could be making 30 million this year and it would be totally fine. The thing that is worth kind of looking at though is the way that the league changes over the time that these deals go into effect, right? So sometimes the league goes toward more shooting bigs, right? That's something that we saw in the playoffs. Jarrett Allen is not a shooter, but what he is a guy that has like a very defined offensive role. The thing that is worth noting with that defined offensive role though, is I think that where he thrives is with his synergy with Darius Garland a lot of the time. his ability to play with Garland in ball screens, catch lobs, be able to, time his rolls to the basket, be awesome in the dunker spot for those little dump offs that Garland tosses him. He is a real high level playmaker, kind of out of those situations because of that rim running ability. But what happens if you move Garland? Does that diminish his offensive role in some way, shape, or form? They still have some answers to figure out on this roster in terms of the fit of the roster. You and I have talked at length about how this is kind of just not a playoff centric roster, in my opinion, at least. And I think you kind of feel the same.
Yeah.
They're going to have to make adjustments, but at the end of the day, I don't think this deal stops them from making those adjustments, which means you can move a Darius Garland if Evan Mobley gets better. You can move a Jarrett Allen if Evan Mobley learns how to play center. It doesn't limit your problems. It doesn't limit fixes to the problems that you currently have. So this just makes total sense to me.
That's why I have no problem with it. It's not that I all of a sudden believe in this core four in Cleveland and think that they're not going to end up having to move on, or I think Kenny Atkinson is going to come in and solve all the problems. The reason I like it is you can live in both worlds for however long you feel like you need to. And, the other thing, you mentioned Jarrett Allen's passing out of the short roll. He averaged the most assists. He also 3 to 10 feet the last 2 years, Sam. And this is over 30% of his field goal attempts, better than 50%, 52 this year, 53. He's really good in that. Here's another thing, knock on wood here. He's played a lot of games, 72, 80, 70, 63, 51, 56, 68, 77. Couple years where it's a little less. Of course, those were, some of the years also where the NBA didn't play as many games, but, pretty consistent in terms of games played and playing almost 30 minutes a night, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. So, health seems to be there. He's entering his prime. Yeah, maybe in 27, 28, you feel like you're paying a little more than you would want for a 31-year-old Jarrett Allen, but you're on the last year of it, and it's still only 15% of the cap. I mean, Hartenstein went out and got $30 million a year from the Thunder, and that's what Jarrett Allen is getting on a contract 3 years from now, 2 years from now. So again, I think I really like, my first thought was I took a step back and was like, man, I don't know. Like, do you really want to lock in this core? But again, as I thought about it more, I think that's a contract you can easily move if and when you need to.
That's also kind of where I sit on it. I think it's just an easy deal to move if necessary. And the Cavs are now locked in with an interesting core, at least like a core that will allow them to continue to be competitive for as long as Donovan Mitchell is in his prime. Right. And it could extend beyond that if Darius Garland takes another leap, if Evan Mobley takes another leap. Both of these guys are, 25, in Evan's case, 23 years old. Right. So Evan's the big one. It's this contract more than anything to me is a big bet on Evan Mobley improving his perimeter offensive game and allowing him to be the kind of wing forward creator that they kind of want.
Yep.
We'll see if that happens. It bought them time more than anything, though. That's kind of the reason that this makes sense is it buys them time to be able to kind of figure this roster out more and more, as does the Donovan Mitchell deal. They've had a good summer, Cleveland, being able to lock all of these guys into deals that allow them to continue to build out this roster moving forward.
Yep. I agree. I'm with it.
Okay. Next up, Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones is going to be the starting point guard for the Phoenix Suns this year on a minimum deal. Bryce, did it surprise you that Tyus Jones is accepting a minimum contract?
It's surprising me that that's what he's having to accept, or that's what he's accepting. Now, it seems like I don't want to say people misjudge the market or whatever. Gary Trent Jr. is another one with the Bucks where I didn't expect a minimum deal to probably go start in Milwaukee. I thought Tyus Jones would definitely get paid a little bit, maybe not as much as what I thought, but I didn't think he'd be settling, quote unquote, for a minimum deal. I like where he's ended up in terms of, hey, you're going to get a chance to go start on what could be a very good team. Now, how does it play out in the playoffs? Who doesn't get to start now? I think all of these are fascinating questions, but he gets a chance to hopefully go increase his value and hit the market next summer. But yeah, these are the stories that I would love to hear in terms of what was going to be there, what ended up not being there. Did he think he was going back to Washington, but then they got Bub in the draft and he looked good at Summer League? And was that why he didn't go? Did he not want to stay in Washington? I'd be fascinated to know why we ended up here, but the beneficiaries are the Phoenix Suns.
I think that is absolutely correct. This is a home run signing for Phoenix to me, because it's just so low risk, right? It's a 1-year minimum contract, and Tyus is going to help them in the regular season. Like, no questions asked. Tyus will be somebody that, yeah, the defense is an issue. I will be interested to see what he looks like in a more constructive defensive situation than what Washington was this year, where he was playing next to Jordan Poole all the time and they weren't really playing for anything. Tyus has been a part of solid defenses in the past, but it's worth noting that according to EPM's model, which again to me is the best all-in-one metric currently on the market, he's been a negative defender for 4 of the last 5 years. The thing is that he's been a really good offensive player over the course of the last 3 years. Like, he has really taken a leap into being a fantastic distributor, scorer. He had the enormous assist to turnover ratio that I think people like slightly overrate occasionally when they start talking about that. He had like a 7-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. He's an unbelievable decision maker, but like, he doesn't always pressure teams by getting into the paint, right? He's this guy that makes incredible decisions. He makes very early processing reads and gets the ball moving, but not always a guy that's going to like pressure the basket. On one level, that's annoying for Phoenix, right? Because Phoenix isn't really a team that has a lot of like rim pressure necessarily, right? Bradley Beal is a settler in the mid-range, certainly. Devin Booker can have moments where he gets to the rim, but is more of a settler in the mid-range by and large, or from 3 from time to time. Kevin Durant obviously loves to be able to get into the mid-range and score. Tyus isn't going to help that part of it in terms of getting rim pressure, getting to the foul line, not a free throw drawer by any stretch of the imagination. But the thing that he will help them with is just making quick decisions and being able to get their guys open looks more often, right? Phoenix does by and large have the ability, because of their 3 stars, to get defenses into rotation. Tyus's ability to make quick decisions once defenses are into rotation and put the ball in pinpoint situations right where it needs to be, that's what makes him so valuable, in my opinion. That's why this will work on some level for Phoenix, at the very least, as long as he stays healthy. How much it'll be a value add in the playoffs, like, maybe we can talk about that, but I do think he will help them substantially as they go through the regular season and just need another creator out there from the backcourt who gets everybody involved in a completely unselfish manner.
I was talking with the scout the other day about kind of this idea of floor spacers and different things. And I eventually kind of worked myself into, you need advantage exploiters, guys that will take advantage or guys that will exploit the advantage that is created on the second side. So KD gets a double team. Somebody has to be waiting on the second side to exploit it, whether it's knock down a shot or make a quick decision. And the conversation we were having is guys that are quick decision makers. Who cares if you can really shoot it, Sam, if you're a second late deciding to shoot it, or if you can really attack the closeout, if you always make the wrong decision on when to attack the closeout. My point here is Tyus can do both in terms of, for his career, he averages less than a turnover per game. He averages assists that are solid. But you know what he shoots from the corner the last 2 seasons? 53% and 48%. He shot really good from 3 overall the last few seasons. Like, he's slowly gotten better throughout his career. Again, he's played a lot of games the last 6 or 7 years, which I think is important for this Suns team, that it's not a guy that, history says he probably only plays 40 games, Sam. So like, what are they actually getting here? So I think he just fits really well. And then on top, hey, you know what? This team could really use a guy that just sets the table, right? Like, yeah, let's get into a set, guys. And I don't want KD to have to do it, or Bill to have to do it, or Booker to have to do it. And the other thing is, we don't need to talk about this. They also got another guy that can do this in the second unit in the regular season, not necessarily in the playoffs, in Monty Morris. They signed him before this, a few weeks ago. So they got a couple of these guys now that it can at least set the table, knock down open shots, and never, ever turn the basketball over.
So I'm glad you brought up the shooting. Tyus Jones last season shot 42.7% on catch and shoot threes per synergy. The season before that was 37.2% on catch and shoot threes. In 2021-22, he was 40.1% catch and shoot threes. So right around 40% over the course of the last 3 years on about 600 attempts on catch and shoot threes. That is really important on a team where Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker are all going to have the ball in their hands very often, right? So I love this. I think that this is a home run fit on offense. The defense, I thought Yusuf Nurkic had a great year defensively last year. We will see how long that extends for the regular season. I don't know that they have really changed enough within their roster to where I believe in them in the playoffs more than I do a Denver or a Minnesota or an Oklahoma City. I still think that they are going to struggle to get stops against those teams at too large of a level, because you're probably going to have to slide down to like KD, Booker, Beal. I mean, like, who are your other two if you say that you can't play Nurkic all that often in the playoffs, which seemed like they struggled to? It's probably Grayson and Royce O'Neal still, which is basically what we saw this year. Because the thing with Tyus is, like, if you go back through his track record in the playoffs when he was there in Memphis, it wasn't pretty. It just really, really wasn't all that pretty. He struggled to separate, he's a ball screen guy. Like, you really, defensively there are issues. Teams are willing to attack him on that end. So Tyus is a great regular season addition, but I don't know that they've solved the playoff issue maybe in the way that I think we may have hoped for this offseason.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that wasn't going to come with the Tyus Jones signing anyway, or signing guys to minimum. So I think what they did is they raised the floor of their regular season to where, like, hey, maybe we can finish top 4 if somebody suffers an injury or has a stretch where they don't play well, or we survive some of this stuff. And a top 4 seed isn't nothing, right? You get home court advantage, maybe you get the right matchup in the playoffs, and that helps you win again. Here's what I think comes down to this team actually winning in the playoffs. It comes down to KD and Booker being awesome two-way both ends of the like KD has to be the best defender on the team, I think, for them to win a playoff series, multiple playoff series. And Booker has to really lock in on that end as well. Because thinking that Yusuf Nurkic is going to do it, or one of these rookies, like we brag about Ryan Dundee's defense all the time. You can't play him in the playoffs anyway right now because he can't do anything offensively. It's not going to be Oso as a rookie. So I think it's KD and Booker who essentially have to raise the ceiling for this team and what they do defensively. But that doesn't mean that this shouldn't be celebrated as a big win for the Suns, getting somebody like this. I just wonder how Grayson Allen feels shooting 40% from 3 last year. And then it's like, hey, go to the bench, bud. Like, you can come in with the second unit this year.
Oh, I think he still starts. Honestly.
So you think Bill's coming off the bench?
Yeah, no. If I'm them, I'm probably just going
KD
Booker
at the 5?
and Beal. Yeah, maybe not. It is probably Grayson off the bench. You're probably right. I did math poorly there for a second. Yeah.
Can't take 10 days off again. We mess up our count.
10 days off again, man.
Can't count to 5.
Can't count to 5 anymore. Jesus.
But that's the thing, right? Your immediate thought is, oh no, Grayson's staying in this, but you have the big 3, Nurkic, and well, no, the big 3 and Jones sounds like, I'm not messing this up, like the reports are he went to Phoenix because he was going to get to start, right? So
yeah,
I feel like we're locked in with that. You can't start KD at the 5, in my opinion. Like, there's no way you do that. So it's Bill, if anybody, and I don't think that's going to happen, at least not in the regular season.
Honestly, like, that might be a fun spot, man. That might work.
No,
Beal is like the sixth man, like is kind of an interesting one to me, but they won't do it. Like there's 0%
I
chance
don't
they're gonna do
hate
it.
the idea, Sam. I don't hate the idea. I just don't think they'll do it. Yeah, I discount. Sorry, Grayson. Grayson Allen shot 46% from three last year on 6 attempts.
Grayson was unbelievable, but
How
yeah,
dare
they're
me
gonna
to
bring
say
Grayson off the
43?
bench.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
they're gonna bring Grayson off the bench.
it's an interesting bench unit, right? With Grayson, Royce O'Neal. Again, I brought up Monty Morris, and then if the young guys can play at all, they signed Mason Plumlee. I think this will be a fun team to talk about when we're talking about just regular season stuff, right? Whenever we're just like, hey, who's going to finish where in the regular season in the Western Conference? I think it's a team that enters the equation, and then whenever we get to the playoffs, it's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, just like kind of thinking through that, right? I would probably have them fourth right now. If you made me like pick out teams, I would say all of Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Denver ahead of them. And
Dallas.
I think in the regular season, I would take Phoenix still. Okay. Dallas is probably like 4. It's them in Dallas at 4-5 to me for sure. And then you're looking at New Orleans, you're looking at Memphis. I think maybe Houston gets thrown in. Golden State maybe gets thrown in. The Lakers will be in that mix for sure. Sacramento will be in that mix. This is the reason that this signing is, and this is where we can end it, right? The reason this signing really matters for Phoenix is that 4 through like 10 spot in the West, right? There is potential that there are 3 games of difference, I think. Maybe 4 games of difference between those teams.
Well, Sam, there was between 5 and 10 last year. 4 games.
Yes.
Legit, I'm looking at it right now. Dallas at 5, Golden State at 10.
Yes. That's why this signing is important. It gives them more depth. It gives them more ways to get through the dog days of the regular season when things are struggling. The team might not be right. You might be going through some injuries. A couple guys are sitting out one night here or there. That's why this signing is big, because it gives you another body that is like a legitimate, certainly like top 7 rotation player, top 6 rotation player on a team that, oh, by the way, in Phoenix, I think has really had as good of an offseason as you could have hoped for, realistically, given their limitations as a second apron team, where they've brought in more bodies and have signed a number of players now that could help them throughout the course of the regular season.
I agree. For what they could do, I like their, unless you were just going to do something crazy, right? Like you were going to move one of the big 3 or something. They bring in Plumlee, Jones, Morris on minimum deals. I liked their draft for where they had draft picks with Ryan Dunn. Also, they bring in Jalen Bridges as a 2-way guy. Like none of those guys are going to be really in the equation this year a whole lot, but I like those moves long-term. Like I thought they had a solid, they're probably with Milwaukee in terms of who got the best, guys on minimum contracts, because Milwaukee brought in a starter as well, I think, in Gary Trent Jr., Taurean Prince, and a backup point guard in DeLon Wright. So I think we could have that argument, which of those 2 teams brought in the best minimum contracts, but Phoenix is obviously right there between those 2 teams.
Yeah. And, again, when the West is going to be as tight as it's going to be, it's really important. And, oh, by the way, another team that made a, near minimum contract move is Denver. They've signed Russell Westbrook now to a 2-year, I think it's like $7 or $8 million contract, right?
Looks like 6 point something, 6.7, 6.8, something like that. 6.8.
Sure. So 2 years, $7 million. It's pretty close to his minimum
player option.
Where are you? Yeah. Where are you at on this? Because this is a complicated one. I don't see a Russ Jokic pairing going particularly well.
Jokic thinks it will. Sounds like.
Yeah, I don't think I agree. I think that Russ is such a ball dominant player, and even with the Clippers, and oh, by the way, like Russ got a lot of shit, and I tend to be more of like a Russ supporter than most people are. The only like really, really bad year was the Lakers year in 2022. Like that was the only one that was like really bad. The last 2 years, he's generally been like a pretty positive player because he's been an aggressive defender who is able to, help his team just by creating transition opportunities on offense and playing aggressive point of attack defense, right? Like this past year, the Clippers were better with Russ on the court, despite the fact that he started only 11 games, only played about half of his minutes with Kawhi and played about half of his minutes with Paul George, but only played about a quarter of his minutes, on the court with both of them. He only played about 20% of his minutes in lineups with Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi. Only played about 20% of his minutes in lineups with Harden, played 20% of his minutes with Harden and Kawhi, and played 20% of his minutes with Harden and Paul George. So essentially, half of his minutes this year came with only like one of those guys on the court this year, let alone two of them, right? So I think that he is still a useful player. I think he can still bring value. I think where he will bring value is in non-Jokic minutes, where he can just be a force of nature, create transition opportunities, rebound the basketball, kind of do everything that they need when Jokic is off the court. I don't think that this helps them when Nikola is on the court.
Yeah. So I think that was one of the questions I was curious for us to talk about was, do we think he actually plays with Jokic? Can he cut off of Jokic and, do that thing, get out in transition and let Jokic throw those baseball passes and those type of things? Where I think my immediate thought with this was, I think he helps them in the regular season because he just plays with an intensity and energy every single night, no matter what. And I think this Denver team could use that. Where I think it could absolutely be a disaster is in the playoffs. And I think my biggest worry isn't just a Russ thing with the Nuggets. It's a floor spacing thing in general. Christian Brown, who we've talked about, is low volume three-point shooter, at least right now. Yep. Peyton Watson, not a shooter. Russell Westbrook, not a shooter. Those are three of your top 8 players on the team. One is a starter. The other two have to be two of your first guys off the bench. Makes a little more sense with Dario Saric, right? You can play him as a big. I think the big winner in this is Julian Strawther. Like, Julian Strawther has to play for this team because they just flat out need his floor spacing. So yeah, I think he's going to play a major role. And I'm assuming Christian Brown starts. That's all indications in Denver is that he'll start and take that role for KCP. So I think that's my biggest worry with this team. And Russ obviously isn't helping that in the playoffs. I do think that in the regular season, and a jolt of energy, random night in January, February, March is something this team could use. And like him and Peyton Watson could bring that off the bench.
So one way under discussed aspect with the Nuggets is, part of the reason that they get absolutely annihilated when Jokic is off the court is that they are the worst rebounding team in the league.
There you go.
When Jokic is off the court. When Jokic was off the court this past season, they had a 69.2 defensive rebounding rate. The worst defensive rebounding rate in the league last year was the Washington Wizards at 72.5, right? So they were drastically worse. The difference between how bad they were without Jokic on the court as a defensive rebounding team was the difference between the Wizards and a league average defensive rebounding team comparatively. They are a really, really bad rebounding team when Jokic is off the court. Having Russ actually makes a lot of sense there because he will go and get rebounds. He will attack the glass. He will go and make sure that they're able to hopefully end some possessions there. The reason I am worried about a Russ Jokic combination is that even now still, Russ has gotten less ball dominant in his time in, the NBA since he's transitioned to being more of a rotation player as opposed to a star, right? You can look at his usage rates, for instance, right? He went from being a 30 usage guy in that season in Washington to a 25% usage guy this past season. 25% usage is still high.
That's not nothing.
25% usage is still a high number for somebody in the role that Russell Westbrook is going to be playing. I don't know that having that high of a usage guy who also is a non-shooter totally works for a team with Jokic with this current lineup. You basically would have to play him, I think, with Murray in order to have the requisite shooting out there. It'd have to be like Murray, Porter Jr., and Russ with Jokic, and then like whoever your fifth guy is. You'd still potentially probably only have 3 shooters out there with Russ, right?
Yeah, because I when I mentioned this, like Aaron Gordon, not exactly a shooter either. So I mean, that like it just
Right.
that's now 4 guys in their top 7 that we're talking about. That it's Murray, Porter Jr., and Jokic, obviously with his gravity. The rest of the guys are not proven volume NBA 3-point shooters.
Yep, that's right. So it's a tricky situation to me with Westbrook on the court with Jokic, but I think he will help them in lineups without Jokic and hopefully will lift the tide. The problem is he going to be happy with that? Like,
Sure.
I would imagine he's signing there thinking he will play, at least half of his minutes with Jokic, right? Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe there's been some conversation. He played 22 minutes a game last season. And, I would think he's probably going to expect that this year. And, Jokic plays 36 or so per game. So that'd be about half of his minutes coming with Jokic. And those are the minutes where I think it'll be a little bit tricky and he might be like a real negative out there because his role is Aaron Gordon's role on offense in the half court.
Yeah.
And you can't really have 2 guys in today's NBA playing that role.
Yeah. So that would be the thing. You would need a lineup with Gordon out, Russ in, 2 other floor spacers. And yeah, I think the wild card here, not wild, but like the X factor is Jokic. Jokic is if Jokic wants him there, I don't know if there's a pre-existing relationship or not or whatever, but can Jokic kind of harness the things? Because the thing that makes Russ great is the energy and the intensity, but then it goes too far, right? And then he's taking these hero ball shots and it's too fast and it's too much and all of that. If Jokic can rein that in and be like, hey, dude, just stand there in the corner. Let me catch the ball. And then I'll wink at you when I want you to cut. Like, let's just do that. And then, go bring that defensive intensity, go grab those defensive rebounds. That's where this thing works. I think it'd be a credit to Russ, right? Accepting this, but also a credit to Jokic's greatness and Malone and the staff figuring it all out. But I think that's how it works is Jokic is the one that makes it work. It is how things, how this ends in a positive way.
Maybe we'll do like first month of the offseason winners and losers next week because we have like an open spot in the schedule next week. And we'll talk a little bit more about Denver as a whole because I need to think a little bit more about what all of this means. 2 other smaller signings worth noting. The long-awaited Luke Kennard contract saga has ended. Luke Kennard has signed a 1-year, $11 million deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. We talked about the Kennard angle of this with the Grizzlies whenever we did the Summer League Vets podcast, the last episode we did. He averaged 11 points per game, shot 45% from the field, 45% from 3, 89% from the line. He is Luke Kennard's name does not come up enough in the conversation for best non-Stephen Curry shooter in the NBA.
Fair.
Do you know what Luke Kennard is shooting from 3 over the course of the last 3 seasons? Let's even go 4 seasons, Bryce.
4 seasons, let's say 43.7% on 5.2 attempts.
Luke Kennard is shooting 45.9% from 3 over the course of 4 seasons on 5 3-point attempts per game.
It's big time.
He has made 46% of his last 1,000 3-pointers. That is an obscene number. That is like historic levels of being able to shoot the basketball. And he's not just a catch and shoot guy that only makes, shots off of movement and things like that. He's a real pull-up shooter as well. I think he gets like way, way, way underrated when it comes to real potential drivers of offense off the bench in the NBA. Now, defensively, worries across the board. lot of worries with Luke Kennard defensively, but I think that they're hoping with Zach Edey, obviously with Jaren Jackson, with Marcus Smart, that they can craft lineups that allow him to be successful. And I think they probably will in the end.
This is a team that's fascinating. People don't talk. We talked about this earlier, right? And we didn't mention the Grizzlies when we're talking a little bit about the Western Conference standings. And, they moved on from Zaire Williams, but they still have so many guys. Like, I just read through the roster. I'm like, that guy thinks he's going to play. That guy thinks he's going to play. That guy thinks and there's like 12 of them. There's 12 dudes on the roster who I would guess, you take out Derrick Rose, Jalen Wells, Diakite, Conchar, maybe. So they're over the limit right now, but they're not over the limit. They don't have to have 15, but I just think it's going to be interesting how the roster plays out again in Memphis. It will be fascinating with, the way Gigi played last year, the way Vincent Williams played last year, Jake LaRavia, hopefully looks like maybe he's figured some things out. Brandon Clark coming back. You're going to have Zach Edey. And then they got some fun two-way guys. We talked about Jay Huff, Scottie Pippen, and your guy Cam Spencer. Like this roster is just amazing whenever you look at it 1 through 18.
Well, this is the thing with like this roster, right? Unless they're having Marcus Smart be like the backup point guard and like that's it, Scottie Pippen is their backup point guard right now. And I think they might just like run out some Marcus Smart minutes at backup point and just kind of let it roll. Maybe you let Luke Kennard run the show a little bit as a backup point guard at times. That wouldn't totally blow my mind with some of the other like lineups that they can put out there. But like Scottie Pippen is probably going to play 40 games for this team this year as a backup point guard, I would say, just given their injury history, right? Like John Morant misses time, Marcus Smart misses time, right? That's a two-way guy. They have 16 guys on this team. Scotty's ahead of Derrick Rose for me. So like you can reduce that by 15. Diakite would be 14. Jalen Wells, 13. Like you said, Concher, that's 12, but like that's still 12 dudes, and that's a lot of time. Like I don't know where the minutes are going to come from for LaRavia. I don't know where they're going to come from I mean, like Santi Aldama is really good, like really, really good. And he's like their third big. I think that Edey probably plays ahead of him because I think Edey is going to be pretty good early. And, Jaren Jackson's obviously a big that will play some center. Aldama will probably play, I guess. But like where the real guy here that we need to figure out minutes is like, I'm assuming that they are going to play with, their full complement, John Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, right? Those guys will take up, let's say, 90 minutes across the three positions, which leaves you 48 minutes across the 1, 2, and 3, right? You have Luke Kennard. You have Vince Williams. Those guys are going to take real time, right? Like those guys realistically could probably just take all 48 of those minutes, right? Gigi Jackson, like, is, like gonna have to play probably, right? Like he's gonna get minutes somewhere. So, where do those minutes come from? He's probably gonna end up playing like 10, 15 minutes a night. And that feels like a low number for somebody like him to me. I don't know.
Yeah,
interesting situation.
And I did math. This is not a math episode, so I need to get back in school. They have 18 guys, 3 two-ways. They have 15. They have 15 guys on the roster. I don't know what the hell I was talking about. So I apologize, everybody who's screaming at me, because I thought they had 16 guys on the roster, and they don't. They have 15 plus their 3 two-ways. They're very much exactly where they're going to be. But yeah, because there's not even minutes at the 4, right, for Gigi? Because if you start,
Jaren will play
and Edey
25 of those, and Brandon Clark will play 15 of those probably. Maybe you could say Santi will probably play some 2 big lineup minutes. It's a weird spot for Gigi to get minutes.
And like you said, where's the backup point guard if it's not Marcus Smart? Like if they're not planning on it being Smart, it'll be interesting if a move is made eventually to one of these wings, whoever that we're talking about, ends up getting moved for a point guard, for a backup point guard.
They're still, to me, like a consolidation spot. They have all of their draft picks. They have all these like interesting young players like Gigi Jackson. Like Vince Williams was awesome last year.
Yeah. Yep.
Vince Williams was really good last year. Deserves real minutes. Is a serious defender for a team that could really use like a serious defender on some level. I think he was like clearly better than Gigi Jackson in terms of like impacting winning basketball last season. It's going to be interesting to see how they kind of go about finagling their roster a little bit to make things work.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay. Last guy, Precious Achiuwa. The Knicks have signed another depth big, which to me feels like the thing that they probably needed to do most, right? On this roster. Precious there for 1 year, $6 million. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good move. They needed to bring in some depth. I feel like Precious, was fine in his minutes with the Knicks this past season. I'm still a little bit nervous with the center position with New York. Like, I'm trying to really, really, really buy into this team, like crazily buy into them with what they've done and how they've constructed the roster. And every time I think about him, I'm just like, man, if Hartenstein would have stayed there, if Hartenstein was still there, if they would have replaced him with somebody that was even, I don't know, is Precious 80% of him? I don't think he is. Maybe he is. Maybe he averaged almost 3 offensive rebounds a game in his 49 games with the Knicks. I feel like he found his stride a little. Maybe he's going to be able to give them exactly what they need and just come in and finish and grab rebounds and do that. He's not the passer that Isaiah is. I don't know that he's the rim protector. So that's my hang up here. But if they don't have some other move that they just know they're going to make to shore up the center position, this was a good move. Got him at $6 million. So it makes sense to me to go ahead and bring him back.
Yep. I think that they had to bring him back. I think that is the thing that makes kind of the most sense, is just bringing him back and making sure that they have enough depth to like eat minutes. I think that just them having Precious, Jericho Sims, and Ariel Hookporty, I'm still a believer that like if they played Hookporty 500 minutes next year or something, that they probably wouldn't get eaten alive in those 500 minutes. You don't want to play him more than that. Like you want him to be your third or fourth big. But I think that he is like a perfect Tibbs big that will do what they want him to do, basically. He will rim run, he will protect the rim, he will set screens and do all of that stuff, right? So I don't know. I think that they can probably get the big thing is what happens if Mitch gets hurt again, right?
Yeah,
and that's like a real substantial problem with him. He tends to play so hard that he gets hurt.
That's what I was going to bring up is, 2 seasons where he played 30 games, a couple more that was right around 60. What if things don't go great with his health? And now you're starting, because I think Tibbs would do that. Like he would start Jericho Sims and I just love that team because when those two guys were healthy, you had 48 minutes of incredible center play. And maybe this is one thing where I eat my words with Precious. Maybe Precious is just perfect for what Tibbs wants from a center. Maybe he's just going to thrive for the Knicks and be perfect with the offensive rebounding. His block shots actually were the most of it any point in his career in those games with the Knicks. Maybe he just found a home and he's going to be able to do that and even into the playoffs. So hopefully he makes me eat my words here and him and Mitchell Robinson are able to create that duo. And like you said, there is some other depth in terms of Jericho Sims, Hookporty. Like maybe they're able to just piece it together. And then if things are healthy, right? If Mitch Rob is healthy, then they feel like they're in a really good spot. So yeah, I don't know. I wonder like in the playoffs, what happens? Here's my question, Sam. When a team starts to double Jalen Brunson and what center are you going to that can make the right reads out of that double team? Who are you putting at the top of the key when Brunson gets doubled and is going to be able to short roll pass or make a short roll floater the way Hartenstein was able to?
So I'll answer this question like secondarily here. The way to think about the Knicks center position is you basically need 4,000 minutes, right? You need 4,000 regular season minutes to eat up at the 5, right? Mitchell Robinson has never played more than 1,800 minutes in a season. So let's go at the peak and say 1,800 minutes for Mitchell Robinson, right? Let's say they have to play 300 from Hook Porty. Let's say that, Jericho Sims ends up playing 800, right? That gets you to 3,000 minutes, right? You have 900 minutes there. You still have to eat up. 900 to 1,000 minutes, you still have to eat up. Precious can eat 900 minutes in a season, I think. But the other option that we haven't talked about here is Randall playing the 5. And Tibbs has been averse to doing that at this point. But that was before you had to find minutes for both Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, on top of Josh Hart as well, who will eat minutes at the 3 in all likelihood. I am betting that we see more minutes of Julius Randle at the 5 than what is maybe expected of this.
I hope so. I hope so. I just know what would happen if I brought that up. And because anytime I do, people Tibbs won't do that. Tibbs isn't going to do that. He's not going to play. He's not going to go small. He's not going to play. I would love to see that. But that's why his history is why I hesitate to bring it up.
I get it. I get why people would be hesitant to bring it up given his history, right? Like, completely rational and reasonable to think that, he's not going to play, right? He's not going to play the 5. If he doesn't play the 5 ever, you're starting him at the 4, Mikal at the 2, Anunoby at the 3. Dante and Josh are coming off the bench full time. Where do the minutes come from for Deuce then? Like, that's like 8 minutes a game for Deuce probably. I just feel like they're going to have to play Randall at the 5 a little bit just to get all these guys that are their best players on the court at the end of the day. And again, these are in games where I'm assuming Mitchell Robinson misses at least 20 games, if not 30 games in a season, is like what should be the baseline at this point, given his injury history. We hope it doesn't happen. Like, we don't want Mitch to miss time, but to me, I am under the working assumption that to get all of their best players on the court, Randall is going to have to play a bit of the 5.
Yeah, again, I'm with it. I'm kind of looking back through previous Knicks seasons and how much B-Ball Reference says that he's played there, and it's just not very much. It's 3 or 4%. My thing, I'm not as worried about it in the regular season, to be honest, as I am in the playoffs. Like, I think for them to go where I think they can go in the playoffs, I think Randall at the 5 needs to be an option to get the players you're talking about. OG on the floor, Bridges who do you think their 5 best players are? And I know this isn't always
their 5 best players are Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Julius Randle, and I think I would say Dante. I would also accept Josh Hart as an answer.
I think I agree. And then whenever you add in the context of playing an actual basketball game and guys fitting together, I think there's even more of an argument for Dante, right? Because he spaces the floor so well.
Correct.
And I don't know that you have to have that, because obviously Mikal and OG can knock down shots, but that's very interesting lineup. Like, I like that lineup a lot with those guys. Or you could just go crazy defense and physicality and keep Josh Hart out there.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
And by the way, Tyler Kolek was awesome at Summer League, and he's just like not going to play. Like, I don't know where he gets time. Well, like, I think he can go, and like, he's just not going to play.
Thank God you brought up, Deuce, who was obviously awesome last year after whenever he started getting minutes. I mean, he was awesome, and it continued through. So, here's the point. This team's really good and really interesting. And if we're arguing and quibbling about the center position with all these different options, and that's a good spot to be in, I think, for the Knicks. I'm just interested to see how it plays out. And I would feel a little bit better if iHeart was still there.
I would too. Okay. This is going to be the end of the audio portion of the podcast. So people stay here. We're not done recording on YouTube. So this is going to be like a new thing that Bryce and I are doing. We're going to do tape breakdowns of players, and we're going to make them YouTube only. So today we're going to do Nolan Traore. He played at the U18s this summer. He's a potential top 5 pick in the 2024 or 2025, NBA draft. Why are we doing this only on YouTube? Honestly, because I didn't think the audio product was very good. Whenever people are just listening to this on YouTube, right? Or listening to this like on a podcast feed, they're just like listening to Bryce and I talk about tape, right? So if you want to watch us break down and listen to us break down Nolan Traore tape, it'll go up as a separate video as well, but also it will be here on the YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie, subscribe, listen to us break down this tape, and actually get to watch us break down the tape. But at the end of the day, like, there were enough complaints about us breaking down film on the audio portion of the show that we were like, okay, fair enough. Like, honestly, I think that's like completely reasonable to complain about. So we appreciate the feedback on that. Having said that, if you're listening on the audio show, thank you all for listening. Please remember, rate, review, subscribe, do everything you can to support the show. We'll be back whenever Lowry Markkanen makes a decision here in the coming days, seemingly, or Utah makes a decision, whatever. But stay here on the video side and go to the video side over on YouTube, and you'll get to watch us break down Nolan Traore. Okay. Bryce, let's talk about Nolan Traore, one of the more fun players upcoming in the 2025 NBA draft. So I got to see Nolan up close at Hoop Summit this year. I thought my impression of him coming in was as a player that I wasn't sure how athletic he was. And I thought he was like more of this is a first round pick in 2025. Then I saw him at Hoop Summit and I was like, oh no, this is like a real dude. The pace that he plays with, the poise he has, the decision-making, all of that is incredibly impressive. Then he went and played for Quentin, my Lord, San Quentin is how you say those words, over in the French league. I'm going to have to like learn how to pronounce French again. I fucking took French in high school and like I can't even. San Quentin. He averaged 12.3 points and 6 assists per game in 9 French league games, which is like awesome, ridiculous production for a guy that I believe was 17 years old when he was playing those games.
Just turned 18 in May. End of May, he turned 18.
He is a fantastic lead guard prospect. And we got to see him play at the U18s this summer for France. He played 22 minutes a night, averaged only 10 points per game, but dished out 7.3 assists and 3.8 turnovers, as we'll talk about. I think a lot of those turnovers were not his fault. And it is a really interesting situation that he got credited with a lot of those turnovers. I would expect that he will be named to the all-tournament team. Tournament isn't over yet. I believe that there is still the championship game to be played, right?
I did not check. I'd have to check what day it was.
Oh, no, it happened today. I lied.
Today.
I thought the championship game was tomorrow. So Germany won the title. He was not named to the all-tournament team, which is a little bit bizarre to me, but whatever. The reason that he wasn't named to the all-tournament team is because France finished 5th in this tournament. They finished 5th because they lost to Israel in the quarterfinals. France went 5-1 in this tournament, and we will talk about Israel maybe next episode, because Ben Seraph is a really interesting player that I want to dive deep into because I am fascinated by that guy.
Just real quick, might create the most separation on the ball of anybody I've watched so far in the 2025 draft. Like, just real wiggle, start, stop, your favorite term, deceleration. The kid's good. He's very good.
Put it this way. Ben Seraph won MVP of the U18 despite the fact that Israel did not medal at the U18. And it was 100% the right decision.
Because he had 240 bombs.
That was the best player I saw at this tournament.
He was awesome.
The most impressive player. Having said that, Nolan Traore is also incredibly impressive, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does end up going higher than Ben Seraph in the NBA draft. I think I would still project that, in all honesty, at this point. In this game that we're going to talk about, we are going to break down his game in the round of 16 against Turkey. I believe that Traore had, it was maybe 16 points, 7 assists, and like 7 rebounds, something like that. Why are we doing Traore before Seraph, before Hugo Gonzalez? Frankly, because he's the best player that played at this tournament, right? So we want to dive deep into Traore. He was seen as the best player playing at the tournament coming into this. He was seen as the top 5 pick that was in that top group of prospects entering this cycle. So we want to dive deep into him first. Bryce, as somebody that had not seen Traore live coming into this 2025 NBA draft cycle, what was your impression of Nolan Traore?
Yeah, I was a big fan. I was very impressed. I am going to watch one more game. They actually played Lithuania and our guy, Kasparis Jakishonis. And he balled out. Both of those guys balled out. And so I'm excited to watch that one as well. I think the first thing that stood out to me when I turned on the film was how efficient and proficient he was in ball screen actions. And like the first 5 minutes, he was making all the right reads. He'd thrown a lob pass, a pocket pass, a hook, like everything, split the defense, and then went and scored himself. So he just was showing all of the ball screen stuff that I like. I think he plays with good pace. I also was kind of impressed with some of the contact he was able to play through, finishing with his left hand. The on-ball creation stuff I was really sold on. I'm interested to talk about the jumper with you a little bit more. And I know he's true on-ball guy. I would have liked to see a little bit more off-ball stuff. It seems like when he passed, he just kind of stood and watched. Maybe that's the context of who he is playing with. And then I thought even at times he had some good defensive engagement. I mean, there was times where it was lacking, but there was times where he picked up full court. He was making necessary off-ball rotations. Wouldn't have hated to see him a little more aggressive on the defensive boards at times. But overall, all I had kind of watched was highlights, clips, some synergy things here and there. These were the first full games, and it was really impressive.
Okay, so let's talk about Nolan Traore here and jump into the tape. So Traore is trailing right now here. This is Nolan Traore, number 0 for France. Just want to be clear for everybody.
Tape on his right wrist if you're like trying to pick him out whenever we haven't outlined it.
Yep. So this one here, you get to see just a little bit of the burst, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Wouldn't say he is like the fastest player out there, but would say that like he has some pretty real burst, plays with great bend, in my opinion. One thing you will see as well is the finishing, right? Like I think he has pretty good touch around the basket, but doesn't elevate at a super high level. And I think that the finishing around the rim is going to be interesting. Now, of course, with FIBA competition, I want to be clear for everybody. This area here, the painted area, is very difficult because I think as people know from now watching the Olympics, there is no 3 seconds. Guys like this dude here for Turkey can really camp out in the lane, and it can be really, really difficult for those guys, smaller players, to be able to score. Spacing is incredibly hard to come by in FIBA. So when you see somebody like Traore consistently get into the paint, whenever guys are digging in here and coming up from the corner, same side and helping, right? Because the closeout distance is shorter going out. It is impressive and worth noting that. So here, Traore gets the line, gets fouled. I put in a free throw of his as well, just to be able to see what the shooting mechanics look like. Any immediate takes on his shooting mechanics, Bryce?
Yeah, one thing with the explosion, like that first step was really good. I do think he moves fluidly. You mentioned the bend, all of that, just not a ton of vertical pop when he gets to them. I thought it looked good. I'm still trying to feel like, I feel like there's a little bit of a hitch right before the release or something. And the shooting mechanics, I've said it before on the pod, isn't always my like go-to thing, but I thought there was just a little bit of something at the very top, but I may be imagining it as well.
I think that the free throw looks pretty clean, which makes me think that it will probably be clean long term. But we'll talk about one issue that I see moving forward whenever we go through more of the tape. I think he brings the ball back a little bit too far to his face as he's shooting. So this one here, we're at 8 minutes left in the first quarter. This one is what I would say is really his only like pretty rough turnover here. So this is coming out of an out of bounds play. You know, he's going to come up and get the ball. They're going to run like this little screen here for Noah Essengay, another potential 2024 or 2025. I'm sorry, going to take a minute to get used to that. 2025 first round pick. I'm not quite as high on Essengay as some others are, but this one here, he just kind of tries to force this in because this is like a set play, right? This is what they're trying to do, where they're trying to get Essengay, who brought the ball in, off of this little curl here, flashing to this area where Essengay is very successful. And you'll see he just like completely whiffs on the screen. I think that's Leon Schiffelin. Just completely whiffs on the screen. I think Essengay should probably catch this ball, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think Traore, I think he that's a really nice defensive play. I think he predetermines the read. It looks at one point like Essengay is gonna keep moving across and has just enough of an advantage. And whether, who knows whose fault it's kind of like a quarterback throws an interception, right? Because all of a sudden the receiver's settling down into a spot instead of continuing to move. I would still put that on Nolan there, but I kind of understand what he was seeing, and like maybe there was a short little pocket to go ahead and throw it in there. I think he ultimately just predetermined like, hey, he's going to curl off here. I'm going to hit Essengay on this and let him, curl in and score. And then just didn't really recognize the defender, didn't get hung up on the screen.
Yep. I think that's absolutely true. I would still like to see him catch the ball.
Sure.
And then this here, great defensive play.
Like, that's awesome.
Motor is pretty good. Yeah, Motor is good. He has really good hands. I think that he generally tries to defend. Now we'll see a couple of moments where I think he kind of gets caught a little bit, but generally a guy that I think is a solid defender.
What I like real quick right there is he played with his chest initially, hands were up, and then he went for the dig on the ball after the offensive player had exposed. So he got decently in guarding position, not perfect, but pretty good, getting his chest for the most part right now. His right hand is up. I think his left hand eventually comes up as well. And then he digs. Yeah, both hands are up. Now, right, that's perfect, Sam. Great job. And the ball is exposed, and then Traore is able to come down and dig at it. Just really, really good stuff.
Really, really good stuff. I agree. So this one, again, off of an out of bounds play. He's going to set a screen here, come around, get into a screen action, and just an awesome little dump off pass here. This is a really fun play from France. In the way that we do these breakdowns for people who maybe don't know, maybe didn't watch some of the 2024 NBA draft breakdowns, I go through, I pull all of the tape where Traore or whoever we're breaking down does something, right, is involved in the play, both on offense or defense. And then we really run through and talk about it. So this one here, I think that what the goal is here is I think France is anticipating that Turkey is going to switch this action here as Essengay set this screen and then comes around and goes. And they're hoping that by getting this guy caught here, that it will free this man or free Essengay as the trailer in some sort of breakdown. But Turkey deals with it really well. They have the screen action on the backside to be able to create the easy outlet. Then it just turns into ball screen stuff, right? And it turns into like a beautiful, beautiful empty side Spain action.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
And for people who don't know Spain necessarily, so Spain action is going to be screen here by the big, And then the inbounder is going to come up and try to set a screen on the bigs man and then shoot up to the 3-point line for essentially like a pick and pop, right? So watch it in full motion here. I love this because there are just multiple options on the play, right? Like that's the big thing. There are multiple options across the board.
Watch this back door. Excuse me, I don't know who this France player is, but the back door from the France player, that actually gets Traore's man to step over. And then now that gives him the advantage coming off this other screen. Look how far his man is away from him now. Now he's trying to go underneath the screen, gets him behind. And then now he's, not ready to navigate the ball screen. Like all of that plays off. So that's a great backdoor cut from Traore's teammate to get that help to step off and created a little bit of an advantage for him to start off. And then just like you mentioned, really cool action overall.
Yep. This one, it ends up being wide open for the dump off to the big. Easy bucket there. That was a fantastic play by France. Really, really good. This one here, we're going to get into another screening action, another Spain action. Traore reads it perfectly.
That was pretty good off-ball movement there. He did a decent job getting back to the 3-point line. So I critiqued that a little bit in the lead up, but this isn't bad.
Yep. So same action again. Schiffelin is their shooter that they try to get the ball to on pick and pops. So he's going to come up, try to set this screen on the big, kind of ghosts it. And then Traore relocates. So here's where we want to get into the shot, right? I think his shooting pocket, he brings the ball a little bit too close this way, as opposed to just coming up fluidly. And I think that's really fixable and will be quite easy to get rid of.
He could have relocated a little. You see how he's just kind of standing there at the elbow to start, and now he's backing out as he's getting the catch. So that's where I'd like to see him just be a little bit better. Small thing, but off-ball movement is important still for on-ball creators.
Totally agree, and that play is a great example of why. This one here, block, and now we're out in transition. Just an awesome decision maker in transition generally. Finds the sprayed shooter, misses the 3 here. But again, just, you can see the vision. Just look at him looking up the whole way after he gets this outlet, right? As soon as he catches the ball, the eyes are up, right? Catches, eyes go up, and he's trying to find where exactly he's going to put this ball. He's thinking, I think, immediately that he's going to pass. I don't think he's looking at this as a way to try and score at all. He knows that by pressuring this man to his right, it's going to pull that help defender in. He sprays the ball out perfectly. That's easy, smart decision making as a basketball player to me.
And these last 2 clips are really good examples why assists aren't created equal. I mean, I think in the 2 clips ago, I think his guy that filled to the top in the Spain should have just shot it. There, he creates a really wide open shot and his teammate doesn't make it. That's why you can't always just believe the assists and the turnover numbers.
Yep, no question. So this one, screen into a rescreen action.
That's beautiful. Good patience, not a good finish.
Yep. But he does end up getting the assist. So again, the patience that Bryce brings up, 100% right. Look at the little stop there, gets the guy on his hip. It's exactly what you're looking for. Tries to engage the big defender, decides to kind of settle for this little ugly floater shot. I mean, that's something that just is probably going to have to go at the end of the day for him.
I agree.
I don't like that shot. I don't think it really makes all that much.
I thought he finished well with his left, so I'm surprised he just didn't go on with his left hand here.
Yep, I am too. He creates an easy contest from number 13 here from Turkey. Right shot, right hand. It's going to be hard to finish that. I like that he stays engaged, finds that little passing angle for the dump off to their big. Easy bucket, right? This one is defense, right? So we're going to see him just kind of pressure the ball here. He's going to keep pressuring, gets over the screen reasonably well, gets over another screen, fights back in front, right?
Multiple efforts. Really good. That's good stuff.
Yep. That's just exactly what you're looking for. It's exactly what you're looking for textbook wise in terms of on ball defense, fighting over the top of screens. So,
even at I was just gonna say the very first one. So as the guy dribbles across go on to the other side of the floor, his man will dribble. You see him right here. He sees the screen. See how he jumps up? Even I know it doesn't look like a whole lot, but I guarantee his man said the screen was coming, and his reaction to jump up, get on that hip to get over the top, even though the screen didn't actually, that's great instinct. Like that's really good foundational ball screen defense. I love seeing that from him. Right here, you like whether he sees it, it's called out, but he jumps up and he takes up that space so he can get over the top.
Yep, that's right. The other thing worth noting here, and we'll see this in a later clip, France was kind of hedging these actions, right? So he has to jump up there to get around his man, let alone the screener as well. I love the way he jumps up there to do that. We'll see him get clipped on another one later that I don't really think was his fault. But yeah, I love the way that he just recovers. This one fights around the screen again, sprints back in recovery, doesn't try and like slide, actually literally turns his hips, sprints back in front of his man, gets back in front. This is exactly what you're looking for.
Even right here, there's engagement. Like watch right here. He knows the shot clock's down. He like just stunts at the guy.
Yep.
Like it's a really good possession. The more I watch the NBA, Sam, the more I'm like multiple efforts is a huge part of quality, especially on ball defense, but just defense. And guys are too good. You're going to get beat at times. Are you willing to give a second effort? Like you said, turn your hips, pick a spot in front and cut him off. And he had 3 or 4 really good efforts on that one possession.
That's right. So this one, you know, again, another like kind of out of bounds play, if I remember correctly, where this is coming out of. Get to see just the little creativity as a shooter, a little shot creator, right into the mid range here. So he takes this reversal, asks for the ball screen to go away. He clearly feels comfortable with this matchup. That's a nasty little behind the back here. Turkish defender makes a weird decision there to try and like almost tackle him. It looks like he's just into this mid-range spot. And I think that this is kind of where you see the hitch going back toward his face quite a bit, right? Like he's bringing it out like a little bit away from his body. And then look where it is here. Like it's right here. And then
yeah. Maybe that's what I was like. I just felt like there was a little bit of something.
Yeah, let's see. And then it's like ends up all the way back here toward his face a little bit, right? That's like real movement kind of going back and forth toward your face. That I think is what he'll kind of have to excise. And the reason that I'm guessing he does that is to generate power.
Sure.
Because the thing that he is right now physically is quite thin through his lower half.
Agreed.
As you can see, like he's really elevating into this shot. Like look at how high up off the ground he is. I think that as he continues to get a little bit older and that lower half continues to get stronger, he will be just fine as a shooter. And this little hitch thing will probably get cleaned up and will go away because he doesn't need it to generate power quite as much as what he has to right now. The touch is there though. Like the ball comes out of his hand pretty cleanly, pretty softly, right? He just ends up missing it a little bit to the left because it's a lot of moving parts in the shot, right?
Yep. No, I think I'm with that.
So next up here, again, on the ball, kind of waiting for this thing to go through. They end up kind of peel switching this for reasons beyond my comprehension, but I love the battle on the lower half there, right? This must have just been like a possession where they're switching. The other thing, the reason I put this on here as well is, I mean, look at him kind of calling out, right? Like he's clearly aware of what's happening behind him.
Yeah.
We've got communication here with his hand, right?
Yep. 100%.
So we've got communication there. He's saying screen coming up to his left. There is another screen coming up to his right, though, because they're running a horn set.
I wonder if they're just going to switch horns. If they hedge horns, it could be a quick to the other big and throw it. I don't know. Maybe they're just going to switch horns for some reason.
Yeah, it might not have been a peel. It might have just been like, hey, we're just going to switch this, right? And that was what the scout was. We're not in the room, so like we don't know necessarily. But what I like here is just look at the physicality immediately, right? Engages already, boxes out, kind of gets leveraged a little bit, but the effort is there. He's trying. He's really trying to be engaged on defense.
And he keeps his man occupied enough on that rebound that his man doesn't go and get it. Like his teammate comes in and cleans it up. But at the very end here, he'll fight enough that he has his man boxed out. And I don't think his man ends up getting off the ground to try to grab the board.
Yep. That's dead on too. I love there too. He's got like the half front as well, thinking that they're going to try and throw this entry. Yeah, it's perfect. This is exactly what you want from a smaller guard defending. And, Traore is like somewhere between 6'2" and 6'3". He has long arms. He has like 6'7", 6'8" wingspan. He's not like a, super small guard or anything. He'll be small by NBA standards, but he's not like a midget or anything. Like he's not wildly small. This one here, he's going to come up, get the ball. Defender over pursues. And you just see paint touches into 3-pointers, right? Yep. The feel on him kicking the ball out, the feel on his passing and where the help is coming from, it's just always there to me. That's the big thing that stands out is, here kind of splits these two defenders, has a plan. Like he has a plan immediately for what he's going to try and do here. He knows when he gets this ball here and this defender over pursues and he has an angle to be able to drive, he has a goal. He has a purpose that he's trying to accomplish, right? He is going to try and split these two and engage that defender. And he sees as soon as this defender takes just that very slight hop step in, he's got the kick out to Diakite.
Well, and the defender has his back turned to his man too. So now, like, even though he's kind of there on the closeout, he's turning around. He doesn't know exactly where he's at. So I think we saw it in that transition clip as well. He understands when this defender, when he sees the defender's chest like he does here, that he knows that's a hard closeout for him to make.
Yep. That's exactly, absolutely right. This one here, again, kind of the same action. This one, he just gets a clean lane to the basket, but you can see the burst, the acceleration, right? So, little screen here for him to come up and get the ball. And then they're going to set a screen right around there, I believe, for him to come up and be able to get to the basket. This is just a nice little set, right? And what I think he's looking at here that I like is he's looking at that defender, right? Like you can literally see his eye line. He's trying to figure out, okay, is this defender going to slide over and try and help? Or is he going to stay attached to the shooter? Right. He's looking weak side to see where the help is coming from. He realizes the defender is going to stay and he just ends up elevating and scoring. Just has really great feel, has really, really great feel for a teenage guard. I think that's what stands out to me about Traore. You know exactly what you're getting with him every single time. This one, just a baseline drive. I don't even think it's a drift. I think he's just sitting in the corner the whole way. Right. Gets the kick out in like semi transition, 19 seconds left on the shot clock here. Drive, throws that little lefty pass as well, if you can see it. Right on the money. Just misses the shot at the end of the day. But it's a great, great pass. This one, he's the inbounder. Again, I think to your point.
I feel better now seeing another game of it where I know he's an on-ball guy, but even something like this, I know he makes the shot, but he's stepping back out to the three. He should be in the corner right now. Like he should have ran right to the corner.
Yep. Man, I like that he gets there eventually and you see the touch, right? Like you absolutely see that, there's real shooting potential here, but he really just needs to be there immediately. Drills it. Like he can shoot. Like I think he made 45% from three in this tournament, right? Like they made 50% of his threes, only took, maybe 12, 13 of them throughout. The shooting is the big skill for him, right? Because he hasn't always been like a great shooter. I would say he's probably somewhere between he's like a 30 to 33 probably percent 3-point shooter right now in actuality. He's really going to have to be a great shooter. I think it's a lot of because he's thin at the end of the day. And I think the shot will come. He consistently does, if I remember correctly, knock down free throws like at a pretty real level. So 82% in 2022, 23, 75% free throw shooter this year. coming into this tournament was, was 77% from the free throw line in 2023. I think he'll shoot it. It's just going to take a minute.
Yeah. And you outline the important stuff, which is the strength aspect of it and how that can kind of affect him right now, especially from distance, off the dribble, those type of attempts.
Yep. So this one, gets the kind of switch that he wants. You see the burst to get all the way to the rim, right? So he didn't even get the switch, did he? He just ended up liking the matchup. Like that he was able to get downhill, crosses his guy over, turns his shoulders, gets all the way to the rim. I think he is here. Again, kind of looking. You can see his eyes this way. I think he's trying to see this guy, in all honesty, to see if that guy's helping. Because if that guy's not helping, I think he's probably going to dump this, dump it off to the big. But because he sees that help, he almost loses this ball here, you can see as well. Like it's just slightly off of his hand here to me, it looks like. Not quite all the way in the hand there. I think that's why you see like kind of the weird ball kind of fly everywhere. I do wonder if he has kind of smaller hands. I would be curious to have like a measurement there, because I do feel like he has like a couple moments like that, and when he's like gathering to load to the basket. But yeah, I mean, the explosion and the ability to get to the basket and get downhill here is the key. In the NBA, where there's defensive 3 seconds, and where the driving lanes are a little bit wider, I actually do think this is a pretty easy finish for him. The key is just being able to get downhill and get to the straight line finish.
Yep. No, I mean, it's a great move up top. Just the left to right crossover kind of froze the defender. I think, that's how he's going to have to finish at the rim though, right? Like we don't think he's ever punching that on the defenders. Like it's going to be these finesse kind of touch off the glass type of finishes, right?
Yeah, in all likelihood, I think that's right. Like he might like punch 1 or 2 maybe.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
It's not going to be consistent, not by any stretch.
He's not a non-athlete. I'm not trying to like discount him. I'm just thinking, I think his finishing around the rim is going to be based on touch, finesse, creativity, playing the angles off the backboard more than it is just like power and vertical pop explosion in those situations.
Yep. So this one here, to the corner, goes up, gets the ball. Then we get another screen. Guy goes under the screen. And he just drills the 3, right? This is a big shot for me, because if he's just comfortable doing this, it does really change a lot for him. Sees his man go under here, 29. He decides to kind of shoot under the screen. He goes to the 3-point line here. He sees he has space, and he's just confidently willing to fire. If he's willing to do that, it's a really big deal for him.
I like the footwork too. Right, left. I'm a 1-2 guy, and he's done it twice now, going to his left, where he goes right, left, which going to your left, that's the footwork I would want to see, and it looks really good.
Yep, right,
and
left.
Then that's one's
the 1. That's the 2. Gets them down, gets balanced. And again, you see him bring the ball back toward his face a little bit. But you're 100% right that that's the footwork that you want to see, but it's not supernatural for righties either to be able to get to that footwork consistently.
Yeah, he has just a little bit of yeah. When he gets stronger, he'll be able to get rid of it if he wants. Hear him picking up full court pressure. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good, right? Fighting over the top, cuts off the angle again.
That's good, right? That's a lot of efforts.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So 1 effort, 2 efforts, 3 efforts.
Look at him give his chest too when he gets there. Like he squares it up, cuts
4,
him off. 5.
And the jump to the ball. That's outstanding. That is absolutely outstanding from Traore. He's pumped. You can see it. I absolutely love it. I loved that. That's one of my favorite moments of this game, is him picking up full court and just making this guy's life absolutely miserable. He can defend. He can really defend on the ball, has the length, has the quickness to stay in front. This one, just kind of an easy set play.
On time, on target passing is important from a primary guy though, Sam. Like we just talked about this with Tyus Jones, right? Like you got to have a guy that puts it in KD's hands at the right time. he has to read this screen along with his teammate, knowing that his teammate's not going to curl off this one like we saw earlier. He's actually going to drift off it a little bit, and he puts it perfectly. Yeah, and he's looking the other direction right now.
Looking that way the whole way to try and, I think, get this guy thrown off potentially. Looking that way the whole way. Turns last second, throws this ball right in the pocket.
Yep.
Right in the shooting pocket for the spacer, drills it.
It's a nice pass.
On time, on target. I'm glad you brought it up, Bryce. This one kind of ends up having to pick the ball up early.
I like how he gets open. You can see the change of direction just in that stuff. There's the left hand. That's a tough drive through contact.
Burst through contact, left hand.
Watch him get open though, right here.
Yep. It's a good effort to get open. Rejects the screen. Just realizes I'm faster than this dude and I'm getting to the basket. Nothing you can do. Gets to the basket, finishes. Left hand. Great finish. This one, inbounder here. I mean, just a ridiculous find to me to be able to find that guy. That's definitely not the set play, I don't think, right?
Nah, it is. This guy's setting the weak side.
Oh, yeah, it is.
He's setting the flare. But still, he puts it right where it needs to be, right on time.
Teams really don't like running that opposite side action like that because it puts like the basket in play. Yeah, it has to be because it has to be that this is the play. I think you're right, Bryce, and I'm wrong for him to come there because he's open.
Yeah.
Like this screen gets this guy loose.
I'm surprised he's so locked into because I would understand this. Like if there was a little less time or something like that, like he must have just really wanted to, maybe his guy had just hit a shot or two or something like that and wanted to feed him again.
Well, he's a shooter.
Yeah,
this guy for sure.
And he hit the one he did hit the one a couple possessions ago that we talked about in the half court set.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a great pass though. It's like right on the money, right where you want the ball. Again, like on time, on target, just misses the shot. Right. So this one, he is in the corner, left corner here. This is the one where he kind of gets caught up, right? His man kind of catches him on the screen. They end up drilling a three here. So kind of go back. He gets screened here. And why does he get screened? So generally a little bit far off. I think that like he ends up allowing himself to get attached to this man a little bit too easily as he sets this screen. So lets himself get attached a little bit too easily. Gets clipped here by number 18. I would almost like him to understand that he's going to have to peel this, right? And go out to that shooter, given who is out there. So not like an awesome moment, but, acceptable enough, right? We don't know what their rotations are. We don't know what they're trying to do necessarily. So that's a big question to me. Scramble defense wasn't always awesome, I thought, from Traore, decision-making wise. So this one, stops the ball in transition, just kind of stands there to me.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of standing in the paint. Does use that length to try and create like a tougher pass out, but then like doesn't really close out, hands down on the closeout, right? Again, you'd like to see the scramble instincts a little bit better on defense, but I like the on-ball defense enough to where I don't think that he's like a bad defender by any stretch. And then this one, Essengay throws this like disastrous pass. He gets a little bit frustrated. I have no idea why he looped that ball like 25, 30 feet. He tries athletically to keep the ball in, but just ends up throwing it out. That was a turnover on Essengay. They didn't call it on Traore, but we will get to the minute here where he does get hit with a couple turnovers that I think are a little bit BS here in the second half coming up.
I did have lack of focus on closeouts in my notes. So that was something that I caught in another game as well. Just a little more intensity and focus with those.
Yep. So this one, playing off the ball, kind of jogs up the court, right? They're in a zone. Turkey is in a zone. I think he's recognizing this now. He sees the baseline man immediately, throws like a perfect touch pass, right? Like exactly what you're looking for vision-wise there. Traore, now we're into the third quarter. I love that this one, you can look at his vision, right? I think that he even makes like a quick little look here right before he catches it. I thought that he did a little look at this corner man here and saw that his man Schiffelon is going to be wide open again for a three. Again, on time, on target. We talked about Tyus Jones, constantly available, goes and gets the offensive rebound, resets, and then throws a lob pass to Essengay, which wasn't awesome, but I think Essengay is not paying enough attention here, frankly. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no,
I think that's a good pass for what it's worth.
And he was asking for it too. He
Yeah.
even pointed. So I don't think it's high. Maybe it came a little hot for him. Maybe it came in a little too hot.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good decision though. It's definitely a good decision. I guess that you could quibble with execution. He even ball fakes right before he throws it to stop
literally freezes this dude here.
Yeah, he's got some nice little nuance in these situations to hold defenders. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I mean, he would probably tell you that he wants that pass back and wants to put a little bit more touch on it.
Yeah,
I think that Essengay should probably catch that ball here, to be honest. He goes up with like one hand. Why does he go up with one? So here
he's pointing. I think it just got on him too quick. I don't think he was ready for it.
Yep. I think that's right.
I actually think Traore throws. I like his lob passing, and I think he sees it. He tries to throw them effectively, and I think that's an important part as you're moving to the NBA, throwing those out, transition, ball screens. So,
totally. This one here, Traore crosses his man up at the elbow, forces is that Diakite's man to stay in the lane, recognizes it, sees that his man is floating to the corner here, puts it right on him. Ends up being a foul, I think, somewhere there. Again, ball screen. Realizes that Turkey is in a zone again. It's not really realizing, they've been in zone for a little while now, but like finds the right pass. Again, you can see him like manipulating this middle defender. This guy had like no idea where Traore was going with the ball throughout this game.
He's really good with his eyes.
Really good with the eyes. You can see him look away. Kind of right there, right before. He's kind of looking away over there, like in the frame before this one. Freezes that center defender. Ends up creating an easy little pass there. So one Diakite with a block, and now he's just out in transition, and you see the speed. Like serious up and down speed, Traore. Like you get him the ball in transition, he's gonna go. Ends up getting fouled. This one here, again, guarding off the ball, does a good job staying attached, trailing.
Like the hand activity. He knew where the ball, he knew exactly where they were trying to go with the ball. He just stayed in that passing lane.
Yep.
Don't like the closeout, liked everything before it though.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So let's go back here again.
Like
I'm really glad you called out.
Yeah. This is really good.
Yeah. He's like clearly trying to cut off this post.
Yep.
You can see by his footwork, he's trying to push, like he's giving this guy like an open lane to the middle of the court because he knows that they're trying to get it to this guy. He knows that he has help here probably. He has help on the back line here. He's trying to force this guy to the middle and has no problem letting him go into the middle because the goal is to get him to that post guy, right? So again, final effort to get to try and cut off the post pass, stays in front. Again, engaged here, long arms.
He's telling low man too. He was pointing right there. He right before that, you see him pointing. He's telling somebody, "You got low man. You're the tag." Something on the bottom of the defense.
Yep, telling that guy, you've got to be available for this man here. I like that he's communicating. His guys just get beat here, and that's a tough spot for him, right? Again, you would like to see the closeout better. Like the closeout technique has to get better. I like the second effort, but he's just going to have to get better closing out. That's
so here's one thing that maybe the shot clock was way down. He may not have thought there was time. Nah, maybe not. I'm probably giving it
bad closeout.
Yeah, bad closeout.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So this one,
not as good. Gave up the back door.
Not as engaged, right? But I think again, the thing here is they're trying to stop this dude. I don't know enough about Turkey's team, but they're trying to stop this dude from posting the whole time, right? So he's here on the double, ends up giving up that easy layup to his man. Kind of flat-footed there. His man cuts to the basket. I would be interested to just know, this is one where like we're not in their locker room, so we don't know what their strategy is, right? They really might just be like leaving the backside man 1-on-2.
Yeah.
Right? Like that might have been their goal here. We're leaving the backside man 1-on-2. We're doubling from the baseline onto this guy before the catch, making sure we're available. This guy has to be responsible for that guy, right?
Yeah, and if that's the case, the only thing I'd like to see is him communicate more demonstratively with that guy. And maybe he did. We can't always see communicate. He looks at him, but I don't ever see him like point or like see where we can see him talking.
He does look back at him real quick, but like I don't think he's talking enough there. I mean, it could be like he freelanced, or it could be that Diakite screwed up, right?
Yeah.
But leads to a bucket. Regardless. Next. So that was Traore turnover there. They gave Traore a turnover for that one. So when you see like 5 turnovers in this game, I mean, come on. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Catch the ball, Diakite. Put it right in his hands. He gets the turnover there. This one, though, again, gets back. It's the strip in transition. Second turnover in this game where he's ended up fighting back, forced a live ball deflection, and forced the ball out of bounds and made them reset instead of getting an easy bucket. The effort is there. Like, I think he really does give defensive effort. I think he's probably going to be okay on defense in the NBA. This one, I mean, you're seeing him shift gears with like ease here, right? So let this play through again.
I think another left-hand finish too.
Yep. Shifting gears, turning, right? Kind of splits that man. I can't totally tell how he splits him, like how he gets through this.
Oh,
did he what?
He dribbled that again. So
totally. Yeah.
That's one thing these little navigation dribbles of those secondary defenders is something I try to watch for with guys more and more, because not everybody can do this. They see this help defender and they would have picked the ball up, and then they wouldn't have got as deep into the lane as what he got. That's a really impressive dribble here. Left hand.
I think he like inside outs it.
No, he outside.
I think he like inside outs it. Yeah. Like, I think he puts this. So it's outside hand. Look at his hand go like inside here, kind of. And then I think he like pushes it that way to inside out it with his left the whole way.
Yeah, I don't think that ball ever touches. Yeah, that's nice.
That's sick. That's a really sick navigation dribble there to be able to get through that space. Finishes with the left. To do all of that with his left hand is really sick. So this one here. I mean, like, I kind of put this on the ref. Like, this ball clearly hits the Turkish guy's foot.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it. Let's see if I can get. I don't know. I'm not great at the stop-start stuff yet. Yeah, you can literally see it hit the black shoe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to stop the play there, right? we gotta get a kickball. But that's another one of his turnovers, right? So like, yeah, you'd like to see, be a little bit more careful with the ball, I guess, than 3 turnovers even. But a few of these weren't on him, right? So this one, easy same side drive and kick.
Yep.
This is just simple stuff, right? And this is the last one. He only played through the third quarter in this game. Yeah, so like having now gone through a second game here, I think that Traore is definitely like a top 10 guy in this class to me.
Agreed.
The speed, where do you think he would have gone in this draft, this most recent draft?
Ooh. I mean, with the teams or just big board?
Let's say with the team. So like Atlanta probably doesn't take him 1 because they have
No.
Trae, right?
Washington might probably.
Washington, I think, takes him at 2. I think he's a better prospect than Alex Sarr. And I liked Alex Sarr a lot, and I had Sarr at 1.
Yeah. It would be close for me. I'm still, even after Summer League, I'm still I'm a fan of Sarr still.
Yeah, so am I.
Just the size
totally
and the archetype and all of that. But I think my answer is he's right in the mix with all of those guys. Like I don't think he would have been a tier above like Cooper Flagg would be. Like I probably VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey maybe would be, but I think Traore would be right there in the same. He would have been right in the conversation. And here's the thing: we're evaluating him a year before.
Correct.
Those other
guys,
he's going
to get better.
Yeah. So when you ask me this 8-9 months from now, it may very clearly be like, listen, Traore 100% no matter what, or maybe we find flaws in his game throughout this next year. So like that's the caveat with that as well. But yeah, I mean, I think he very much would be in the conversation.
Yeah. So like him versus Reed is close to me, right? I was too big of a coward to put Reed at 1, so I put him at 2. I'm just like at this point admitting it, right? Like I said this on the Rookies Summer League show, but like the way you and I talked all year, like it was clear that Reed was my favorite guy in the class. Like maybe, Cam Spencer or whatever, like in terms of guys that I just like enjoy, but Reed was the guy that I talked about all year. Is like, this is the upside swing in the class. I don't know where I would rank Traore next to Reed, but I think that Traore is probably the guy that I would take. Like I would take him over Ricochet. I would take him over Sarr. I would take him over a number of guys here, which says to me, like right now, I would have him below Edgecombe. I would have him below Dylan Harper. I'd certainly have him below Cooper. I don't know what the fuck to do with Ben Seraph yet. We'll talk about him maybe on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever we record next. He's like a top 5 guy in a good draft to me right now. Whether or not that holds, we'll see. But I think this tape says that he should be right around a top 5-ish guy in the class.
And again, it's important. Like he just turned 18 and is about to go into his draft season where we already saw, like, we just watched Reed shoot 50% for a whole season with Kentucky. And that's why you were so high on him with all of the other stuff. We haven't even got that film from Traore yet. And with him being in a pro league over there, it's going to be really fun evaluation. If he's over there cooking and making reads and the turnovers go down and the 3-point percentage goes up, he very easily could play himself into the conversation. So we still have a lot of data with Traore left.
Yeah, and part of the reason the people were so excited about Traore too was played at, what was it? Was it the Schweitzer? No, it wasn't the Schweitzer. It was, I think Next Gen. I think it was the ANGT, right? And was like totally dominant, like completely and utterly blew up there. Had 45 against Barcelona and Kasparis, right? Had 20 and 6 assists in the game before that. Had 18 and 5 assists, right? Like he was the best player, arguably. I think that Hugo Gonzalez won MVP of the ANGT, but like he was the best player at the tournament, I thought, whenever I watched those games. And then prior to that, they played Osvel in a playoff series at San Quentin. He had 25 points in a playoff game against Osvel, right? And it's just like, oh shit, like this is a real thing. Osvel has Sean Thomas, David Lighty, Yusufa Fall, Paris Lee, Joffrey Laverne, Tim Luawu Cabarro, like serious dudes who can play. Mike Scott, played in the NBA for a little while, and he went out and dropped 25 against that team and was really, really good and had 7 assists in that game and like significantly looked the part. So this is not the only sample that we've seen of Nolan Traore. We've seen him play well against professionals at this point. We've seen him play well against this group of players, the ANGT. I think he is a really, really outstanding prospect.
Yep. No, he's a lot of fun. I'm excited to watch him and how things go and grow this next, like say 8-9 months.
Yeah, I think that's right. So we will do more of these at some point. It's the summer, so why wouldn't we do them? This will go up as its own video as well. So we'll have like a little headline, about it on the YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're here watching the show, or if you're watching later, go to that, hit the subscribe button. You'll get video notifications when stuff like this goes up. What else, Bryce? I think that's all we got right now.
I think that's all we got.
Okay. So tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah. So at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, essentially anything I'm doing, podcasts, Substacks, anything like that, you can find over there. So follow me on Twitter at Motor City Hoops. Otherwise, just continue to turn in here, like, subscribe, whatever you got to do, wherever you're listening to. Support the pod, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie.
All right. So we'll be back after Lowry D-Day, is the best way to phrase it. So tomorrow is the 5th. Lowry is eligible to sign his extension on the 6th. I'm guessing that nothing, something might get announced on the 6th, but nothing will be, done until the 7th. So my current guess is that we will probably go live on the 7th, but it'll either be the 6th or the 7th, depending on how that goes. So, all right, Bryce, until next time, we'll talk soon.